Welcome to a special lesson on the graduation mini project. Today you build something real. Today changes everything. Today is special. Everything you learned, variables, types, functions, collections, loops, conditions, files, APIs, comes together in one script. You will write a program that reaches across the internet, fetches real data from a public API, processes it, and saves the results to a file on your machine. This is not a toy example. This is what real Python tools do. And after this, you officially graduate from learning Python to being able to write it. Let us build something together. The most important lesson so far. Look at what you can do. You started with variables, names that hold values. You learned types, int, str, float, bool, none. You learned functions, named blocks of reusable work. You learned modules, importing tools other people wrote. You learned collections, lists, dicts, sets, tuples. You learned loops and conditions, for and if. You learned files, reading and writing data to disk. And you learned APIs, fetching data from the internet. Today, all of that goes into one script. Look how far you came. You started with nothing. One variable, one type, one function at a time. Look how far you have come. Today you prove it by building something real. One step at a time. Before we build, take stock. You can store data in variables and transform it with operators. You can wrap work in functions and call them many times. You can import modules from the standard library. You can hold many values in lists and dictionaries. You can loop over collections and make decisions with if statements. You can read and write files to disk. And you can fetch data from the internet. That is not a beginner anymore. That is a programmer. Say each skill out loud. Variables, types, functions, modules, collections, loops, conditions, files. These are not buzzwords anymore. They are tools in your hands. They are tools now, not buzzwords. Here is what we will build. Step 1. Fetch user data from a free public API called JSON placeholder. Step 2. Parse the response as JSON. It comes back as a list of dictionaries. Step 3. Loop over each user and extract the fields we care about: name, email, and city. Step 4. Save the filtered data to a JSON file on disk. Step 5. Print a summary. 5 steps, 1 script, everything you learned. 5 steps, 1 script, no more theory. No more single line examples. Today you write a script that reaches across the internet, fetches real data, and saves it to your machine. No more theory. First, bring in the tools. Import requests for making HTTP calls. Import JSON for saving data. Import path from pathlib for file handling. Then define the URL we will fetch from: JSON placeholder, a free fake API for testing and prototyping. No authentication needed. These 3 imports and 1 constant are the foundation of the script. Everything else builds on them. 3 imports, 1 constant. Step 2. Fetch the data. 1 line does the hard work, requests.get of URL. But we do not trust the internet blindly. We check the status code. If it is 200, the call succeeded, and we print how many users came back. If anything else, we print the error and exit. This pattern, try the call, check the status, handle the failure, is what every real script does. Never assume the network works. Never trust the network. A request goes out. JSON comes back. Your code parses it, filters it, loops over it, writes it to disk. Data flows through your hands. Data flows through your code. Step 3. Parse and extract. Response.json gives us a Python list of dictionaries, real data we can loop over. We create an empty list called filtered. Then we loop. For each user in the response, we build a new dictionary with just the fields we want: name, email, and city. Notice city lives inside address, nested JSON, exactly like we practiced. We append each filtered user to our list. Collections, loops, dicts, nesting, all in one block of code. 6 skills in one loop. Stop and look at what you just wrote. In one loop, you used 6 skills from 5 different modules. Response.json from A.7. For loop from A.5. Dict lookup from A.5. Nested dict navigation from A.5. List append from A.5. Dictionary creation from A.5. This is what I mean when I say collections are the core. Almost every line uses a collection or a loop. You did not memorize these, you learned them one at a time, and now they flow together naturally. That is what core means. Step 4. Save the results. We use pathlib to define the output path, usersfiltered.json. We open the file with the with statement, safe, automatic closing. We write with json.dump, passing indent equals 2 for pretty formatting. Then we print a confirmation. The data that came from the internet is now on your disk, in a file you can open, read, and share. You just moved data from a remote server to your local machine with your own code. From the internet to your disk. When this script runs, you have built something that does useful work. Not a tutorial example. A tool. Your tool. Your tool. Step 5. Display the results. We print a header, then loop over the first 5 users, slicing the list with filtered square brackets :5. For each, we extract name, email, and city into variables, then print them in a clean format. If there are more than 5, we print how many were skipped. This is the user-facing part of the script, the output that makes the tool feel real. You are not just processing data silently. You are presenting it. Present it cleanly. Here is the complete script. 20 lines. 1 file. It fetches data from the internet, checks for errors, parses JSON, filters fields, saves to disk, and prints a summary. Every line uses a skill you learned in Phase A. This is not a tutorial snippet, this is a tool. Save it as fetchusers.py and run it with uv run -- with requests python fetchusers.py. It works. You wrote it. That matters. 20 lines. 1 file. This is what it looks like when you run it. uv run -- with requests python fetchusers.py. 10 users fetched, filtered, and saved. 5 printed to the screen. And the file users filtered.json sits on your disk, pretty printed and ready to open. You reached across the internet, grabbed data, shaped it, and stored it. With your own code. 20 lines of Python. That is real programming. It works. Everything you learn after this, databases, testing, cloud, AWS, rests on what you built here. The foundation is solid. Everything rests on this. Let that sink in. You fetched real data from a server hundreds of miles away. You parsed it from JSON into Python dictionaries and lists. You filtered it down to the fields you cared about. You saved it to a file on your own machine. And you displayed a clean, readable summary. Every one of those steps is a skill that real software engineers use daily. The script you just wrote is the skeleton of almost every data tool, every API client, every automation script you will ever build. The shape does not change. Only the data does. Let that sink in. After today, the path branches. Real editors, real projects, real version control. You are ready for all of it. The path branches. After today, the curriculum branches into parallel tracks. On the theory side, databases in A.8, error handling in A.9, testing in A.10, cloud foundations in A.11. On the tools side, Versus Code for editing, UV for project management, Git for version control, Makefile for automation. You can mix these freely. Learn databases while you set up Versus Code. Learn testing while you start a Git repository. The theory and the tools feed each other. Everything you learn from now on applies to real projects you build with real tools. Mix freely. Here is the honest truth. You are ready for real projects. Not someday. Now. You can open Versus Code and write code in a real editor. You can start a UV project and manage your dependencies properly. You can track your work with Git. You can automate repetitive tasks with scripts exactly like the one you just wrote. You can call any public API and process the results. You can build small tools that save you or your team real time. The foundation is solid. Everything from here is refinement and depth. Not someday. Now, if you want to keep going right now, try modifying the script. Fetch posts instead of users, just change the URL. Filter by a specific city name, add an if statement inside the loop. Save as CSV instead of JSON, use the CSV module from A.6. Wrap the whole thing in a function, def fetch users, return the filtered list. Each modification uses a skill you already have. When you can modify this script without looking at the reference, you are ready for everything that comes next. Make it your own. You survived. You can write real Python. That is not a small thing. Take a moment. Be proud. Then let us keep going. Be proud. I want to say something clearly. You started this course knowing nothing about Python. You learned one skill at a time, variables, then types, then functions, then modules, then collections, then loops, then conditions, then files, then APIs. Each lesson was small. Each lesson was slow. But together they added up to something real. You just wrote a script that reaches across the internet and does useful work. That is not a beginner anymore. That is a programmer. Be proud of that. Take a breath. Then keep going, because the best parts are still ahead. You are a programmer now. This project proved something important. You can fetch data from any public API. You can process it with collections and loops. You can save it to disk. You can build real tools that do real work. Phase A Core, the survival section of this course, is complete. You have the language. You have the tools. You have the confidence. Everything from here, databases, testing, packaging, cloud, AWS, builds on this foundation. The real work begins now. And you are ready for it. Phase A Core is complete. Here is what is next on the playlist. 8.8 teaches databases with SQLite, storing and querying data properly, instead of flat files. 8.9 teaches error handling, making your code robust and professional. 8.10 teaches testing and packaging, the practices that separate hobbyists from professionals. 8.11 teaches cloud foundations, your first encounter with AWS. Or you can start Phase B and learn Versus Code, a real editor for real projects. The choice is yours. You earned it. See you in the next lesson. The choice is yours. Here is the script one last time, cleaned up and compact. Notice how the loop became a list comprehension, that is a Python pattern you will see everywhere. Notice raise for status instead of the manual check, cleaner. Notice pathlib write text instead of open with. 20 lines. One file. A real tool that fetches, processes, and saves data from the internet. Save this file. You wrote it. It is the proof that you can write real Python. Everything from here is just adding to this foundation. Save this file. You did it. You can write real Python now. See you in the next phase, the real work begins. You did it.